Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am Lauren, your host, and I have a 1-year-old son. I started this podcast for any mother who might feel alone in their journey through motherhood. Becoming a mom is hard no matter how you get there, and this podcast is about the mom stuff that comes up in our lives. Listen, enjoy, and connect with us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Today we are going to talk about what we do with our son in the winter. He is, how old is he? A year and a half?
Yeah, a year and a half.
A little over a year and a half. I was told a year and 2/3 this morning.
Yeah, something like that.
But yes, so obviously my husband, Brian, is here with me today.
Hello.
So I'm not quite sure how fantastic this episode will be, but it'll be all right.
Well, that's not a very good way to introduce your dad.
Well, it's supposed to be Mommy Escape Time, so it's probably not supposed to be husband time.
Okay.
But yes. Oh, my husband can't focus for 1 second, so you'll hear all of his commercials with his computer on the side too. So we're going to talk about what we do with our son in the winter. We live in New England where it is cold. Yes.
It is. In the winter, it is cold.
So we can't always go outside as much. Although I will say we're recording this and it's right at the end of December, and it hasn't been that bad.
No, this year hasn't been bad at all.
We've had a few days of like ice, which is like the worst that you can have, because you definitely can't leave the house then. So you're stuck not only inside, but you cannot leave the house. We've only had one or 2 days like that so far.
Yeah, I think you've missed a few days with snow or ice or had delays, but so far not too bad.
Yeah, we're hoping for less canceled school days because we like the summer and we like to be playing outside in the summer. So one of the places that we go, which I know we talked about last year, is we go to the malls.
Right. The mall nearest to us is generally pretty quiet in the morning, and they have a little play area that really works well for kids his age and maybe a little bit older, probably like once they're mobile to probably 5 or so. You do see some older kids there jumping around, but it's really for sort of that 1 to 5 space, I think.
Yeah, in our mall, in our area, the malls open up earlier I think all year round, not just in the winter.
Yeah.
For people to walk in them. So we can go to the malls. I mean, I think I want to say they open at 6 a.m., but that sounds way too early. But it must be like 8 a.m. they open up, and the kids can go, and there's people walking. And last winter, I think we did all the malls.
Yeah,
except for one in Connecticut.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups of older folks that get together, and you see a lot of older couples walking, and not as many kids usually as you'd expect. There's some in strollers, and there'll be some walking around, but I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's a good place to be because they can kind of run around, and if they're loud, it doesn't really matter because the malls are so big. They just kind of swallow up all the sound. So then the older people kind of like it to have the kids running around, so I think it's a good idea.
Especially our son, who likes to chase them.
Right, yeah.
So, and we're trying to get out of using our stroller all the time when we go to the mall so that he can run around, so he can get out some of that energy when we're at the malls. So. Right,
and the stores are closed, obviously, so you don't have to worry about him running into anything or, pulling something off the shelf. There really isn't much trouble for him to get into. Not that he really would anyway, but it's a lot of open space.
Yeah, so throughout the winter, we normally pick different malls depending on how long we've been stuck inside. Last year, there was like a stretch in January where it was like literally below 0 every day for like 2 weeks, and you just had to get out of the house at some point. Like, you could not just stay inside. So we kind of did like a mall tour of Connecticut, and there's a new one that opened in Connecticut this year.
Right.
Not anywhere really near us, but we'll have to check that one out this year too. So.
Yes, we will.
One of my newfound places that I have found to take Luke is Costco, and Costco is like a big warehouse store where they sell things in big large quantities of things.
In case you haven't heard of what Costco is.
Well, some people aren't in America, so they don't know what Costco is.
Okay.
Um, and I got a membership for my mom for Christmas, and I took him there once. Or I've taken him there a few times with my mom before, but this is my first time just going with him, and without really an agenda. I just kind of wanted to see what was available there, and we were there for like an hour and a half, and he was just, again, it's like a tall, large space, so him screaming or yelling, and he doesn't do it that much, but sometimes his excitement is very excitable, so he gets very excited to see things. And it was fine because he just runs around in the aisles and sees what he wants, and I can figure out what I am looking for, and it's just kind of nice because Costco is one of those places where you can definitely get sucked in, like, oh my gosh, yes, let's buy 5,000 of this. I don't even know.
Rolls of toilet paper, paper towels. Yeah.
All right, and so if I it's better to kind of like scope it out. I know I've talked in other shows, but I definitely like to look to see where the best deal is and where the best place to get certain things is. So I'm really I'm trying to see what it is that I'm going to get at Costco going forward.
Yeah, Costco's good because they don't have not a lot of breakable items or anything like that he's going to rip and pull off the shelves. Normally, it's larger quantities of stuff that he wouldn't be able to move that easily anyway. So that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, and I think it was a little eye-opening for me when we go to the TV section and he points to the little like YouTube button because he already knows YouTube that well. So um, definitely more TV watching in the winter, I think, than I would in the summertime.
Yeah, yep. I would say Disney Plus added to that
Yeah,
situation.
that's my own fault, but yes. Yes, if you want to know anything about Moana, I've already seen it many, many times. I could tell you when all the songs are at what time because I know that by heart, I think. That's definitely his favorite. We're trying to move a little bit into Frozen now. But we're really into the YouTube, the Wheels on the Bus, the basic
Yep.
songs. But yeah, that's we try and save that for after dinner, or if we get stuck like the second half of the day, if it's raining or something like that, that's what we try and save it for. I don't always make it that long if we haven't been able to leave the house and we've been up since 5:30 and it's 11 o'clock and we still have like 45 minutes before lunch. Sometimes I break down because I need like to not be running around for 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's good to give a little break and small doses here or there. You just don't want to park them in front of it for 2 hours or something like that. That's when they really get sucked in. But 5 minutes here or there isn't too bad.
Yeah, so we try and do little things like that. We do take advantage of when the weather is nice. We go outside. Like it's been in the 40s here for almost our whole vacation break. So we try and do walks.
Yeah, usually when he wakes up from his nap, it's 2:30, so that's kind of prime time for that. The sun is out, so yeah, he likes that. He doesn't get too fidgety when he walks. He just kind of looks around, and sometimes there's some people out and some dogs, so he gets a kick out of that. It's good for us to get out too. Gives him some fresh air, a little different than the inside air, so he enjoys that.
Yeah, and I think he also has he got a car for Christmas. So we've been taking him out in the car, and that gets him out a little bit. And we have a park near our house, so we've gone there a few times too, which is helpful because he can run around and he's getting better.
Yeah, he has. They have a couple sections there. One's for the younger kids, and then one's for a little bit older kids with some bigger slides and some rock climbing type of things and swings. So that's a good way to kill a little bit of time, get him out and give him some exercise, let him work on some different, a little more open space than we have here in the house.
Right, and it works on those skills, like to get him to figure out how to sit and scooch down the slide to get him started. Because
and he's exposed to a bunch of different kids of all ages too, all ages and personalities and things. So he has to learn how to wait and share and play together, and you get a little bit of that inside the mall too at some of those little playscapes. So all that is good for him.
Yeah, because he's not like at any of the fast food places, he's like not big enough to do those playscapes.
Right.
So we're still at the outside or at the mall. Those are two big things. And then what else? Where
Yeah, I
else?
mean anything that has some open space to look around at. I mean, Target's a good spot, and Walmart and Home Depot. Even sometimes they have the carts that are a little bit different, where you can sit in with a steering wheel and sort of walk around and see different things. I don't really let them walk around too much in Home Depot just 'cause there's too much going on there. That's more of a cart kind of thing. But Walmart and Target, you can kind of give him a little bit more leeway and let him do his thing a little bit.
Yeah, I like to do in Target. I totally let him just run around and I kind of follow him. And I kind of use it as like a practice of like, okay, no, you have to hold my hand now. No, you can't do that and that
Mm.
type of stuff. So kind of teaching him boundaries of being in a store because it's not like they're just magically going to do it. You have to kind of train them. So sometimes we just go and some of it is just running around for a little bit and some of it is like, nope, you can't like knock people over or go in between people like that.
Right,
um,
right.
and yes, you have to hold my hand type of thing. um,
Yeah,
but
they're all different skills. I mean, when you're at the mall, one of the advantages is that it's wide open and he's running around, but the disadvantage is that it's wide open and he's running around. So sometimes we'll go to Target and be the first ones there, and he's got a little more room to operate. But then if you happen to be there later in the day or after work, it's a little bit more crowded. So he has to learn if he's running around, he has to navigate and look both ways before he runs out of an aisle. So all different skills, different times of day.
his favorite thing is to run to the end of the aisle and scream, so that's always fun
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
But I guess that's one way of letting people know he's coming.
yeah.
So, but he's a good kid. I mean, he's just like every other kid out there. He's still trying to learn and navigate all that stuff. So that's good. One of the other things that we did is we went to a museum with him over the
Did.
break.
Yeah.
And he was actually really good there.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he was fairly quiet. It's not a museum where they're
It was a
looking for
kids,
total.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not looking for total quietness. And this is a museum that's going to undergo renovations for the next couple years. So they're actually closing on December 31st, and they're going to be closed for a little while. So lines were pretty long. We were lucky enough to get there fairly early, shortly after they opened, so we didn't have to wait outside too much. And he was good in the line, no issues there. And a lot of young kids there, young kids, and they were all wearing their dinosaur gear, their dinosaur sweatshirts and pants and socks and all that. So that was kind of fun, but really wasn't anything that he could touch or break. Everything was sort of behind glass or behind ropes, and a lot of open space for him to run around and we carried him a little bit when he got tired at the end, but for the most part, he was on his own.
Yeah, and I think that he's getting better with walking around on his own and not needing us to hold him as much. Like
Right.
he's getting his stamina for walking is much
Yeah, it's pretty good.
higher. Yeah,
Yeah.
and which is what we're training for because when we go to Disney, obviously we'll have a stroller, but I don't want him just sitting in a stroller every time.
Right.
So we're trying to get him so that he knows how to walk in public and whatnot. So.
Yep.
And the hardest part, I think, at the museum was, there's like glass and it says, do not touch the glass.
Right.
And I'm sure it's more because they don't want fingerprints and they don't want kids banging on it. So that was like good practice for him to not touch that kind of stuff. Are there any other places that we really take him?
No, I think those have been sort of the hot spots. Any of the bigger stores or anything that he can run around a little bit. Any of the big box stores. The malls have been great. I mean, the carousels. He's good on those. A lot of the malls still have carousels, and now actually some of the malls later in the day are putting on some curfews, so they may actually be even a little bit less crowded. Where the teenage and that group has to be accompanied by a parent, so it's no longer going to be just drop your kids off at the mall because they've had some issues with some fighting and that kind of stuff. So the malls may even be a little bit safer place from now on.
Yeah, and I think it's just nice to have the mall as like a place that is a place that people can go, but not a place that people just drop their children off either.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, Um, all right, and then moving on. So we it's also a great time of the year to have other people come to the house
Yeah,
and
yeah. To
hang out.
mix things up, you don't always have to go out. So we had a big Christmas Eve dinner here. So that's just again another one of those different scenarios for him where he has to be around a lot of people and conduct himself a certain way, but he's still at home, so it's still his territory. He's still comfortable. So it's sort of an in between step. That's something he has to get used to. We don't have a ton of people at the house. I mean, that's definitely our biggest event of the year. Otherwise, maybe a teacher party or something like that for Lauren and her groups. But for most part, that's the most we have over to the house at once. So it's a good chance for him to get used to that scene.
Yeah, and I think it's also good for him to see that I cannot just hold him all the time, or you hold him
Right.
the whole time when there are people over.
Yep.
So he did better, I think, than I thought he would.
Yeah, I think he did
Um,
great.
yeah, I mean he was good, and I, he was patient because it wasn't out of his routine and
Right.
whatnot.
He
So
stayed up a little bit later than he normally does, and we skipped his bath that night. So, and he still ended up sleeping fine.
yeah,
So no issues with that. But yeah, he's got to get used to, out of his routine a little bit and being passed around, and everybody wants to pull him and pick him up and everything. And we had some other kids too who are a little bit older, so he's exposed to children of different ages. And
yeah,
in daycare they've got a pretty good mix there, but for the most part of the day he's in a section with kids basically his own age and size. So this was a little bit different there. We had three other kids who were a little bit older than he was, so that was good.
yeah. And I think like he knows his cousins, so I think that helps too. I mean he it's not the first time he's met them, so he's pretty good. And he didn't have to. I mean, they played with their toys together,
Yeah.
and so he's getting used to that. So that's good.
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing we do, the park that we go to most frequently down the road, they have a winter festival of lights where you can drive through, and they have different scenes and different setups for all sorts of different animals and all that. So even though he's still, facing the back, he can still look out and see a lot of that stuff. Some of it's even hanging above, so he can see that through the roof of the car. So that's something we can do that not too far away, and it's free, and it takes, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to drive through the whole thing. So that's a good way to get out of the house and calm him down a little bit and get him ready for bed. He normally falls asleep somewhere in that or on the way home. So that's a good way to something after dinner and before he goes to bed, something to throw in there.
Yeah, and especially because he's been a little sick. Um, I
Yep.
would say for like the past couple of weeks, he just has the eternal cough. Um, it's just something that to help him kind of like relax and be calm
Hmm.
after dinner. And he really does like it. You
He
would think
does,
because he's
yeah.
still facing backwards in his car seat, and I just can't wait for him to be facing forwards. But I think he really can see. Like he'll point and he'll say ooh ah like, and
Hmm.
so he definitely, we're lucky that he can actually look and see certain things out the window, and he likes it. He is actually kind of amazing because he kind of knows when he knows what it looks like when he gets home, and things like that. So, because sometimes I'll go past our street and he'll cry to go to the grocery store,
All
and
right.
I'll be like, no, and it's like, yeah, no, I still have to go to the grocery store. Um, so he definitely can see out the window, and I would say over the holidays we also have we I like practice Christmas Eve dinner stuff.
Okay.
So we have people over throughout like the December holiday time, um, and we actually are going to try and do that a little bit more in January and February, just to try and get more people over, and just so that we can like kind of see people and hang
Right.
out,
Sure.
um, and just keep having our son exposed to more and more people.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Kids of different ages, and kids play with things a certain way, and he can get used to, the way they talk and the words they're using, and hopefully they're all well behaved, so he learns good things from them. But all the kids we've had over the house have been great. So
Yeah. Okay, well, to end our episode now, we each, I've started a new thing that you don't know about.
oh, great.
So we end our episode talking about one of the favorite things that our child is currently doing.
Okay.
So I really hope you don't pick what I did for last
Well, he's
week.
currently sleeping, so I guess that's one of my favorite things.
What of his well, I'll go first so you can
Okay.
kind of see.
Okay.
So one of my favorite things that our son is doing right now is when we say like, "Oh, go give daddy a hug." He'll run over to daddy and give him a hug, and then he'll give mommy a hug. So he's doing very good with that. And he listens about that. So that's really cute. It's really cute to see, and it's really cute to watch. So
Yeah. Yeah, he does listen, and we make him, if he's spending more time with one person, we make him, go see so and so, or go see Grammy, or do whatever. So we do make him mix it up a little bit, so he's not so attached to one of us if there's other people around.
he means me, but that's okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd say the other thing. I mean, he's starting to get a little bit better with food. He's using his spoon pretty well on his own. So he'll mix it up with. He's got certain things that are just easier for him to get with his fingers because he's not necessarily using a fork a lot yet. So he'll have a spoon in one hand and he'll be picking things up with that, and then just using his finger food with the other hand. So I think that's kind of fun to watch him experiment with that. And sometimes he'll grab a big spoonful of applesauce and you say there's no way that's going to make it all the way to his mouth, but somehow it does. So I think that's kind of fun to watch him experiment with that, and makes a little bit of a mess, but he's learning, so that's okay. It's fun to watch though.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that will close out our episode. We'd love to hear from you and about your favorite things about your child or children. And we will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye.